Hello, 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 everyone. Hey, how are you? It's Wednesday evening, actually. And here I am in Elliott Lake, and I want to talk to you about transformative traveling, right? And if you're catching this live, say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, and of course, if you're watching the replay, type in hashtag replay so that I know that you were here and where you were watching from as well. So let's get real for a minute. We're going to talk about traveling in a second, transformative traveling. But I want to know how you are doing. How are you really doing? Deep down, how are you really doing? Have you ever had like one of those moments where life feels a little stale? Maybe the kids are moved out. Maybe the relationship has shifted a little bit. Maybe work feels like, you're on one of these hamster wheels. Every time I meet my students, they say nothing's changed. Same old, same old, same old. You ever had one of these days or one of these weeks where it's just the same old routine day after day? And you really catch yourself saying or thinking to yourself, is this it? Oh my God, is this all there is to my life, right? If that sounds familiar, believe me, you are not alone, because I think we all say that. We've all said that at one point or another. And some of us have done something about it. And other people just kind of keep saying it and they just keep living, the same life. So one thing that I've learned a lot of things, but one thing that I've learned is that sometimes you have to physically step out of your life, completely detach yourself from your life to figure out what you really want from it. And travel strips away the noise, right? It strips away the expectations. It strips away the endless to-do lists. Yeah, it gives you space to breathe and to reflect and to reconnect with yourself. Now, I'm just not talking about just a little vacation away, like on a cruise or anything like that. That's not the kind of traveling I'm talking about, right? Because it's not just about the pretty views and the beautiful landscapes, although I've been on those kind of trips before and getting the different passport stamps. It's not just about that. When it's done intentionally, travel can absolutely change your life. It really can. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about transformative traveling. So what is it? What is transformative travel anyways? Well, it's not about checking off another tourist attraction or another cruise. It's not about taking the perfect Instagram photos. It's about purpose. It's about traveling to challenge yourself to grow or to heal a little or to shift your perspective on something. And maybe it's to let go of something that you've been holding on to for a long time, right? It's about stepping out into something unknown and feeling what comes up, right? Seeing what rises to the surface and discovering the strength that you might have forgotten that you had. Now, deep down, we've got strengths, but we don't always challenge ourselves to the point where we have to use those strengths. So if you've ever taken a trip that left you changed, if you have, type yes in the comments section. If you're watching the replay, do write it down, and tell me about that trip that changed your life. I'd love to know more about it. Now, you've heard me talk about the Camino, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it, of course, because it is one of my favorite examples of transformative traveling. It is a centuries-old pilgrimage route, And there's a lot of different routes, but I've taken two of them. I've taken one from Spain and one from Portugal. They're not luxurious trips, although the ones that I took, yes, I stayed in hotels, but they're not like very super fancy because it's a walking journey. You're walking, you're walking every day, right? You carry your own backpack, you walk for hours, several hours, and believe me, you have lots of time to think, lots of time to feel, and lots of time or opportunities, I should say, to confront your fears and, of course, to connect with people from all over the world. And if you have heard of the Camino before, type yes. If you've never heard of it before, type no, right? No, it's new to me, right? This could be your first time to hear about it. So I'm going to share a little bit of personal information here for a moment. For years and years and years, I wanted to walk the Camino. And it started off when I had a group in Ottawa. I called it the Walk and Talk. And we walked 3-4 times a week. And we walked for about 4 years, I guess, give or take. It's a Sunday walk that did it, though, because that's where I heard about the Camino. I remember one time it was for Mother's Day, and we walked 13 kilometers. I call that our mini marathon. And that's when I heard about it. We should do the Camino, right? So I heard about it. But I thought, well, it sounds exciting. I thought I'd wanted to do it one day. And I did ask friends if they wanted to do it with me, but no one joined me. Nobody wanted to. So I waited. I waited for a very long time. Waited for friends to join me, but they kept saying no next year. And I waited for the right time. Well, one day while I was booking a cruise, this was in September 22. I was booking a cruise that was leaving from Bilbao, Spain. And because I had done a bit of research already, I knew after I booked my cruise, it wasn't done right away. The name sounded familiar, Bilbao, and I thought, wait, was that part of the Camino? And sure enough, it was. It was part of the Del Norte, which is the upper coast of Spain. And of course, it hit me. Why don't I walk it after my cruise? Whew! Yeah. And it was one of those things that was like a coincidence sort of thing. Things aren't coincidences, right? I don't believe in that anymore. So I decided to look into it a little bit more, and then I decided to do it. Now, it took me a while to prepare for it, right? It took me a while to face some of the fears that I was anticipating. So I prepared myself, and I trusted that I would be able to figure it out. Now, I didn't just trust just like that. I had to get myself mentally ready to do that, physically ready to do that. And of course, I did. I eventually did that. And that trip did change the way that I viewed life, that I viewed myself. It changed me in ways that I really didn't expect it to change. And then, of course, last year I went again, but this time I invited someone to come with me, and a good friend of mine decided to join me. And that's when I knew that I could be of help to other women who want to experience something that could transform their lives. Not just experience a trip, but to prepare for it in a way that makes it a turning point, right? And speaking of fear, because I want to tell you about a couple of fears that came up for me when I was there. One of them was, and this was before the second fear, one of them was when I was approaching a really deep, dark tunnel. So I'm coming to this tunnel, and I can't see the end of it. I cannot see the end of it. And I thought, oh my God, I could feel myself getting nervous. And I thought, I wonder if there's bats in there. I had no idea what was in that dark tunnel. I took a breath and I figured I had to go through it because there was no other way around it. So I took a breath and basically took it a step at a time, really. That's really all it was. And eventually, right, because I was in the dark, but eventually I started seeing light. It wasn't that the kind of the weirdest thing, right? So I started seeing light. And I think this is just the way life goes, right? We avoid, and I've avoided in the past. So we avoid dark because it's uncomfortable. But we avoid the unknown because it's uncomfortable. And I've avoided it many times. But in this case, I had no choice. So I could have easily avoided it, but where was I going to go? I couldn't have avoided that one, right? And the other time too was I was, and I can't remember the name of that city, but I know that I was going into another province. It was Luga, I believe it was, and it was the city of Ribadeo. And I remember getting close to this bridge, and I'm feeling it now. I was already feeling that anxiety because I had to cross that bridge. And it was a long bridge, 600 meters, I think it was. It was very high. There was water underneath, and I'm afraid of heights. I am afraid of heights. That's what I did. That's what I did all the way. And of course, there were people coming in on the other side, and they're just normally walking it. And I'm hanging on to the sides because there was a fence that was separating where I was from the cars. So I was holding on to the side and just breathing deeply, shallow breathing, taking it a step at a time and telling myself, just take it a step at a time, Linda. And I had practiced that. I had done a lot of visualizations to get myself ready to, and if there were any scary things. So I anticipated that and I practiced it. Doesn't mean that now I'm not afraid of heights. I still am. It didn't cure me or anything like that. It didn't. So I just gave you a couple of examples here. But those two examples showed me that I can do it. I can do it. When push comes to shove, when I'm facing a fear, I can breathe through it and walk through that fear, right? And that's one of the ways that the Camino transformed me. I started really believing that I can face anything that I want, right? And of course, the Camino isn't the only way to experience transformation when we're traveling. It's one of the ways. And maybe for you, it's a solo trip that you've been dreaming of for a very long time, but you've never dared to book it. The thought of booking it just kind of freaks you out and start breathing heavy and you go, forget it, I'm not going to do this, right? Or maybe it's an adventurous group getaway that you've always said you wanted to do, that maybe it was too bold for you to do, but you wanted to do it. But some fears come up and you say, I can't do this. That happens, right? We tend to avoid things that are afraid, that fear us. Or maybe it's just traveling somewhere unfamiliar. Doesn't even have to be in Spain or Portugal. Maybe it's just traveling somewhere unfamiliar. Giving yourself permission to be uncomfortable and see what you learn about yourself. Another example I gave, and this was not when I walked the Camino, but it was a few years ago. I went on a cruise and I went on a day trip with a group of people, but I tend to be pretty independent, and I walked away from the group and I walked somewhere where I had no idea where I was. And I didn't remember where I was meeting the group. So I remember just looking around, seeing all these people that I don't know because I'm in Italy, and going, oh my goodness, oh my God. And starting to not panic, but notice that I'm getting some anxiety here and that I'm worried and that I'm concerned. So what I do, and because I had been practicing for a while, I sat down. I just sat down and took some nice deep breaths because there was nothing else I could do. If I kept walking around, I didn't know where I was going, and I'm sure the heck I would have gotten lost even more. So I sat down and breathed. And next thing you know, I see somebody that was on that tour with me. And phew, I thought, hey, do you know where we're going? She had no clue where we were going, but I think she was a sheriff from Atlanta. And she was able to figure out, and I just followed her. So, this is what we're talking about, transforming yourself when you're traveling, right? It's sometimes some fears do just pop up. Sometimes they do. And sometimes it's the same fears that pop up, no matter what kind of trip you're on. What if I get lost? What if I get lost? What if I can't handle it? What if? What if? There's so many different what ifs. And to be honest with you, you can keep saying what if, what if, what if, and never, ever, ever do what you truly, truly, truly want to do and maybe experience that fear. I know I've experienced it and I did it. Do you know what I mean? So these types of fears are normal. They're normal. It's going to happen unless you're not fearful at all. So this is the kind of work that I do, right? I help women prepare for transformative travel experiences of all kinds, whether it's walking the Camino, right? Or going on a solo adventure, or just saying yes, even though you're scared and afraid, just saying yes to that daring trip that you've always wanted to take. So I help you get ready for that. I help you get ready mentally by working through some of those fears before they show up and experiencing them and practicing certain tools as you're experiencing the fears. I help you prepare emotionally by building confidence and by reconnecting with your own needs and your own desires. And of course, I help you with some tips and planning strategies and tools to make your trip smoother and meaningful. Because here is the thing, it's not about the destination. Sure, you could choose a great destination, of course, but it's really about how you show up for yourself on this trip, on this journey, right? You don't want to be avoiding it just because you're afraid. You want to work on this with the help of a coach, for example, and experience it and go, yeah, I did it. It was scary as heck, but I did it. And of course, you don't have to do this alone, right? You don't have to do this alone. So here's what I'm inviting you to consider. Maybe this is your time. Not someday, not next year, but now. And if you feel just a little nudge in your gut, drop a tell me more in the comments section. Or you can message me privately as well. I'd love to chat about what kind of trip might be calling your name and how I can get you ready for it. And hey, of course, if you know someone who needs to hear this today, share this live with them, because you might be giving them the push that they've been quietly hoping for. And I want to say that I'm not old, but I'm older than I was 2 years ago. And we're all in that process. We're all getting older. So you need to know that, if you wait for too long, you might end up with some regrets. One of the things that I visualize once in a while is myself when I'm 80 years old or 90 years old, and I'm going, okay, did I regret anything? And my 80-year-old says, no, you did everything you wanted to do. At least you tried and you attempted and you did a really good shot of doing it, right? No regrets. We don't want to have any regrets. So before I end this live, remember this, you're not too old. You're never too old, too scared, or out of shape, or too broke, or to anything really to say yes to you, right? To say yes to yourself. Life is really it's just too short to sit on those sidelines, right? Just to witness all your friends doing it. And they keep wondering when you're going to do it too. They probably don't know what's really going on inside of you. So again, drop me a message, leave me a comment, and I will see you on whatever path that you choose. And I thank you for listening to me today. And like we say on the Camino, buen camino, or wherever your next adventure takes you. Thank you so much for being here. I see there's one person that's hung around, that's been watching me. Where are you calling from? Or not calling, but where are you in the world? You can write it in the chat box if you'd like, and I'll see it. All right, listen, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you being here. And if this is something that you truly, truly want to face once and for all, you want to travel somewhere where it's going to change you. It doesn't have to be the Camino. It could be any type of adventure that will mark you in a good way. You'll come back to it feeling more independent, more confident, knowing that it was a heck of an experience, but you did it and you do it again. Then you let me know and I would gladly support you. All right, everybody.